It's been a series of bullshit, but, I mean, I'm still here, so I got through it.
Welcome to Understanding the Unhoused. My name is Joshua. Through a series of interviews with individuals who are experiencing homelessness, my intention with this podcast is to increase compassion and empathy for the unhoused. When people see an unhoused individual, they can feel fear, anger, apathy, sometimes all three. My hope is after hearing their stories, hearing what it's like for them on a day-to-day basis, it will make it clearer that these are just people. People who, through a combination of bad luck, bad choices, and, let's be honest, a broken system, have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Okay, enough ado. The conversation I had with Tompson that led to the interview you're about to listen to was just shy of 2 hours long. Tompson connected with me to talk about his time being homeless since the age of 17, growing up in an abusive household, falling in and out of love, and being trans in America. This is the longest interview I've ever posted because there's a lot to it, and it is the 20th episode of Understanding the Unhoused, which to me is a pretty important milestone. I just want to say I appreciate so much the people who have taken the time to talk to me over the years, to tell their stories, to give personal information to a virtual stranger, just to make sure that the experiences they've had with homelessness would be listened to by as many people as possible in a concerted effort to increase empathy across the nation, especially in this dark time for those that are homeless. It is more important than ever that these stories be lifted up. Please enjoy the interview. Tompson, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Of course.
Before we start, can you let me know where you are in the country?
Right now I'm in Colorado. I'm planning on heading back to Utah soon, actually.
What is in Utah?
Well, home isn't necessarily just a structure. It's a place where people care about you, and I got stranded out here, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I don't know anyone in Colorado. I'm not familiar with this place. I was born and raised in Utah my whole life, and the people I came out here for, they moved to Idaho and left me here by myself. And I'm trying to get back to Utah so I can get in a safer environment, because the place I'm at right now is just not the greatest.
Yeah, so can you talk about your situation? Like what first led you to be unhoused?
So I actually started my little homeless journey when I was 17. My dad, he was really abusive. He was really toxic. If you ask him, though, he was just being a bit of a stricter parent and everything like that. He got really drunk one night when I was 16, and he was showing me a bunch of old stuff that he did overseas that were really gruesome and violent, because he was over in Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran. Just got really drunk showing me all this stuff. It scared me to the point where my neighbor, who I would usually take care of because she had a bunch of surgeries complicating her life, I would help take care of her, and she had a spare phone from her late husband, and she didn't mind if I used it, but I took it to school trying to gather my friend's contact information just in case something like that happened again, so I could have help, because I didn't know how else to, get help or find support other than my friends that I had from school. So I took the phone to school without her permission and gathered all my friends' contact info. The only reason that she cared was because her late husband, all of his photos were on there, and that was the last thing she had of him. And so she just wanted me to tell her where the phone was so that she could have it back. She wasn't going to be mad or upset, but my dad was going to be mad or upset, and he was already dishing out threats of how much he was going to beat me and how long the summer was going to be. It was near the end of the school year too, so I panicked because I had been through so much years of abuse. I had opened 12 DCFS cases on him, and none of them went through. And one of my friends was like, "Dude, just leave. My mom and I will cover for you." So that's exactly what I did.
And how long,
Yeah.
I mean, did they cover for you? How long did it last?
So yeah, they covered for me. The CPS worker, he was, you know, he understood I was very adamant about never going back. I literally told him to his face, I'm like, I'd rather die than return to my dad's house ever. I was very defiant about it. But my friend and his mom, they were both like struggling financially, and I felt super guilty about it because I didn't know how I could work to make enough money to help them make ends meet. The mother was disabled, and even though they never said I had to leave, they never kicked me out or anything like that. I just kind of left on my own accord because I'd learned of a youth homeless shelter in Ogden, Utah. And I felt it would be better for me if I went there, since I would be less of a burden on their family since they were already struggling, and I didn't want that for them. Yeah, I stayed there from, I think it was June or July, and then finished my whole senior year in 2022 homeless up until the last of the year, where unfortunately, just from doing a lot of schoolwork, being homeless, the family drama, it was a lot in my life, and I tried to end my life at that point. And then I was put into a hospital where I graduated high school.
I'm sorry to hear you got that desperate, but I'm really glad to hear it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work. It changed my life a lot, actually, in ways that I'm still figuring out. Like just a few weeks ago, I actually re-met with one of my friends from that hospital who I thought I'd never see again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, you know,
how was that?
Oh, it was great. I really wanted to like, cause, you know, in a mental hospital, if anyone's ever been there, then they know how much the staff always say, like, oh, don't make friends here. Don't talk to the people outside of here, cause when you're out of here, that you never know if they're a psycho or anything. So, but for the people in the hospital, it's like they're the only people who have ever really felt or seen things like that. And I don't know how much you've heard about PCS, but if you know Paris Hilton or whoever, I think it is a celebrity trying to get PCS actually shut down because of how abusive it was. And I will be another person to testify that it was horrible. There was staff grooming kids all the time. There was a lot of like shady things going on in the place they called Stable, which was just the acute inpatient side of things. It was a really bad place. It was not a good place for kids who were already struggling with mental health or recovering from drugs, which is what a lot of kids were there for. Provo Canyon School, PCS. Yeah.
I've not heard of it, but I've heard of similar places, and that's just horrible.
Yeah, wow. It was rough, and that was where I actually met my first fiance, which was also rough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little, if you like?
Yeah. Cause that actually, when I was a kid, my dad went through a lot of women, which will be important for the next part of the story too, but my dad went through a lot of women when I was a kid, and one of them was, coming back into my life. She wanted to help me transitioning into adulthood. And so she actually was the person who I was signed off on to when I was aged out of the program, because I was going to stay long enough where I was just going to age out, and that would mean that the day before I turn 18, they would have to give me to an adult just so that they're not like releasing me into the world at 18, no place to go or anything like that. So 17, like the day before I turn 18, my stepmom from like, I hadn't seen her for I think like 10 years. She came, she picked me up, and she was going to help me out with a lot of stuff. But then she kind of didn't. Like, she got me a job with one of her friends from church who owned a catering business. She said I could live in the trailer, like this beat up, literal, like, camper trailer that she parked in front of her house. But then she was like, oh, well, that's costing me like $15,000 a month from the city, so you need to leave and find your own apartment. And you know, my jaw dropped because I was like, I was in the middle of nowhere, Utah. I didn't know any of the people. I didn't know any apartments that were nearby because it's country. Like, there aren't apartments.
Right.
Thankfully, though, she actually did help me find a low-income housing hotel that had been converted into the low-income housing apartments. She paid for my first month, and I was supposed to take care of everything from there. And it worked okay. I got a job at the local, like, ma and pa diner across the street. It was interesting. They kind of worked me a lot, but I also broke my ankle at PCS at the hospital. And it was a really bad break. I fractured my ankle in 3 different spots. It was, I always forget which one, the outer bone, the tibia or the fibula, but the outer leg bone, I snapped it in 3 spots and dislocated my foot. And they had to screw in a metal rod and then take wires and drill them into my, like, toe bones to move my foot back into position. And then everything's all kind of still stapled in there. I still have the rods and the wires.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, so wow. I was supposed to go to physical therapy for that, and my stepmom was supposed to teach me how to schedule and pay for physical therapy since I would have TRICARE until 21, thanks to my dad being a vet, and I would just have to worry about the copay. She never taught me any of it, and she just kind of left me be, and she wasn't very fond of me. And one of the reasons why was because I was a trans guy, and I can say that flat out because her and her mother spent nearly 2 hours just berating me and telling me how it was disgusting, how I thought I was better than God who had given me the gender and body that he had.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. And then that's where the fiance comes in from PCS, because we'd kept in touch, we'd been talking, and we were, you know, young and dumb, and I was like, oh, well, you're the love of my life, of course, so I want to move in with you, and, you know, we can do anything we want together now, because it's us versus the world, you and me, baby. And she gets there. She's from Simi Valley, California, so a bit of the posher side of California from what I hear. She definitely acted like it. I was making $9.50 an hour. I was making barely enough to cover rent, and then maybe $100 or $200 over rent if I was lucky. So I had enough to keep the rent going and maybe some groceries. It just made her upset because she wasn't used to that since her dad was some nuclear engineer for the Air Force or something. And yeah, it was a financial nightmare. It really was. It was funny. I had $500 out of our $700 a month rent, but she insisted that because of all of her mental health issues, which I had seen firsthand from being in that mental hospital with her, that she needed a service animal, and she knew how to train one according to her. She had a German family attack dog or something like that they trained themselves in California, the kind that went to shows and things like that. So she insisted that she could train a dog and that she would do it. She would train it, take care of it, everything. So I said, yeah, sure. If you can get a free dog, like in Facebook Marketplace or Utah has KSL classified, so like you can probably find a dog for free too. And she was like, yeah, for sure, no problem. So she ends up getting a puppy, golden lab, and I was like, okay, that's great, that's fine. But then we get to where we agreed to meet up for this dog, and they were like, do you have the $300? And she turns to me like I'm whipping out my wallet. I'm like, what? And she was like, oh, they need $300 for the adoption fee. And I was like, hun, we haven't even gotten leashes or bowls or anything else for the dog. What about rent? And she's like, well, we can have the state cover it again. They did, like it's low-income housing, they did have the option to have the state assist you with rent, but I'd grown up with the idea that that was a trashy or sloppy way of living, having to leech off the state and things like that. And my stepmom confirmed because when she found out I was using state assisting, she got pretty upset and she was like, oh, so you're using taxpayer dollars because you're too lazy to go out and work to make money. And, you know, I have a different view about it now, but I was 18 and I was like, oh man, I'm going to be paying taxes and I wouldn't want a lazy teenager like me wasting my money on their rent. You know, that's what I would tell myself, but it's like, I'm not being that lazy. So,
I mean, you were doing the best you could, it sounds like.
Yeah, I really was. We ended up getting the puppy, spending all of my $700. This is going into the financial responsibility that this woman doesn't have that led to some issues. But she gets a job at Walmart making $18 an hour, and I think, oh good, we're saved. We don't have to use the state for rent. We can afford groceries. It'll be fine. But she uses Wells Fargo as a bank. The money just always went missing. It always went missing. We'd have enough for rent, and then she'd be like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I have to pay $500 in my withdrawal fee because I pulled out too much last month. But yeah, I never knew how much she had in her account, and she always promised to chip in on rent, and she never did. It led to some breakups.
Yeah.
It led to some issues. And then another thing that led to arguments was when she showed up at my work unannounced, and told me, hey, we're getting another dog at 8 p.m. And she said that while we still had the puppy. It was unfortunate that my girlfriend convinced me that they were treating me poorly, which they didn't treat me the best, but at the same time, it's a small town, country town, like, they expect hard workers to work hard, and I just couldn't keep up because of my injury. And so I ended up quitting. Right. Eventually, we ended up losing that apartment. The place actually caught fire, like, really badly. No one died, thankfully, but there were a lot of close calls, because there were 3 stories. We were on the bottom, so we were the last people to see the smoke or smell the fire. And honestly,
so you were there when this happened?
Oh yeah, we were there. She was cutting my hair, and then she heard a faint beeping that sounded like a fire alarm. We poked our heads outside, and she was like, "It's smoking outside, babe." And then the fire alarm started going out on our end, and I grabbed the most essential things that I could think of, which just wasn't much. I really wasn't thinking because I thought this was a fire drill, so I didn't grab any important documents or anything like that. You know, we left, and then when I got outside, I was like, oh, it's an actual fire. We could see it coming out of the back windows and up the roof. We lost a lot of stuff, our documents, IDs, birth certificates. Wow. We had a new Samsung TV, 2 new dressers. Like, we lost a lot of money and a lot of items.
So your place burned, and is that what led you to be unhoused?
Pretty much. Her and I broke up because she was psycho with my family. My dad and I kind of rekindled our relationship, and he took me in, and I ended up getting my documents back. He showed me, how to get my birth certificate and ID and everything like that. After that, I was able to get a job, and she was really upset that I wouldn't just lay in bed and cuddle her all the time. And meanwhile, I was making appointments, opening bank accounts, trying to make my life make sense and put everything together.
Sure.
And she would just lay in bed all day. And one time she called my brother a little bitch because, pardon the French, but that's, what she said. And I told her right then and there, I don't want anyone in my life who's going to be talking to my brother that way. You can do whatever you want to me, but my brother is off limits. Absolutely not. And she was like, well, what are you going to do? You can't just get rid of me. I'm like, yes, I can. You have by the end of today to figure out where you're going, or tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm taking you to the mental hospital where you probably should have been this whole time. And so I took her to the mental hospital. She was all upset and trying to play the victim, and I didn't care. I was doing McDonald's until one of my friends from the mental hospital, PCS, informed me about Job Corps. That's when I got into Job Corps, and I thought I wasn't going to be homeless anymore. It was a crazy turn of events from there because I went for welding. I tried welding. I was really bad at welding. I got a burn on the same leg that I broke my ankle, so I call it my bad luck leg. Yeah, it was a 3rd-degree burn. It gave me some pretty bad nerve damage, and Job Corps did not take care of it properly or bandage it properly. We documented all of this, and my dad, he was being like a Karen on my behalf because he was really upset with how they treated me. And, I was like, I want to switch trades. Yeah, it was a whole thing. They let me switch trades, and that's when I found office administration. I graduated Job Corps in office administration. I never found a profession that I've loved more than that. And that's where I thought life would change because, I have a vocational degree, and they always sat there at Job Corps promising about how there were thousands of positions in multiple companies that just would love to get their hands on young and intelligent minds that are learning new technologies and new strategies in this ever-adapting technological world or whatever, painted this whole glorious picture. There was a woman I met at Job Corps, a wonderful girl, who had changed my life, and when she got kicked out of Job Corps, I was upset, but she had her own little side story going on where her boyfriend at the time ended up getting her pregnant, and we ended up talking, falling in love, and she wanted me to be there for the birth of her baby, who was coming in May. And so I left a week early to make sure I was there for her last few weeks of pregnancy, supporting her, helping her out. And then on May 18th, I became the father of a beautiful baby girl.
Oh, congratulations. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't homeless for a bit. She got a dog who I'm actually babysitting right now, which is why I haven't left for Utah right now. She couldn't take him with her to Idaho. Just travel didn't work out properly. So she got herself a dog, and the only reason I mention him is because the housing that she had in Minnesota, that's where I ended up. It ended up falling through because she used her tax return to pay for him, and she was getting assistance from the state, and the state decided that she wasn't being very responsible because a dog doesn't add to the household. They couldn't continue with rental assistance or things like that because rent was honestly the cheapest I'll ever find in America. It's only $600 a month for a 3-bedroom house.
Whoa, that is unheard of. Okay, so you got from Utah to Minnesota.
Yeah, I graduated from Clearfield Job Corps, went to Minnesota to be there for her last few bits of pregnancy. Okay. They paid for rent up until she had the baby, and then they were canceling it in June, so she had the baby in May. We were staying until like June, so we packed everything up, and her dad said that we could move in with him, and I pushed for it because I was really set on an office administration job, and I figured it would be easier to find a office administration job closer to civilization, because we were out in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. It was beautiful. I miss it, but we went from Minnesota to Colorado and moved in with her dad. And then her dad was just pretty much like my dad. He was a jerk. He was a misogynist. Just not the greatest. I considered myself a man. He definitely didn't. And every time he referred to me and my then girlfriend, he would always say, "Hey, girls." And I was like, I don't know how many times I've told you, like, I'm not a girl. And I never told him my original name, which is pretty gender neutral. Even with my original name, I told him, my name's Tom. He would just tell everyone, yeah, that's my daughter's girlfriend, Tom.
I'm sorry you had to deal with that bullshit kind of treatment.
It's been a series of bullshit, but, I mean, I'm still here, so I got through it.
So you got to Colorado, and what happened there? So
this guy, like I said, piece of work, and he had a girlfriend at the time who, this guy, this is where the misogyny comes in, because he literally would tell people, it's like, you gotta get a woman young so you can chain her to the oven and train her up, and
Lord.
He was in the middle of a divorce with his youngest son's mom. I know, right? Well, not only that, but I guess he was like 40 and she was 18, and they got married when they were in the military and everything. So he was like over double her age or something like that.
Yeah.
So, they were in the middle of a divorce, and his current girlfriend, he's like 47 to 50 and she's 32. So again, the age gap was prevalent, and she was also really sick of his crap. And then we bonded enough to where she was like, "I'm getting out of this house, and I think you should too, because he doesn't need a baby girl, my daughter, in his life, like when he's acting like such a crazy psychopath." And I was like, I agree, because I don't even like, not just the misogyny, but he literally came downstairs talking to us about how we needed to hit her because kids learn best through fear. And Lou and I had already agreed that we would not be raising a hand to our daughter, ever. So we literally just sat there and politely smiled and nodded through his little speech, because he even said the same thing again. We still had the dog at the time, and he was like, dogs are the same way. Once you beat the heck out of them, they learn not to ever cross you again. And so we tried to get out of there really quick, like in a hurry. She ended up getting an apartment while he was gone on a summer vacation, and that was when we packed up all of our stuff, cleaned everything up, and then left.
Okay.
So left the place cleaner than we found it, and unfortunately we didn't take pictures to prove it, but he ended up just giving my girlfriend a lot of crap when she had to move back in, which was later. But living with her, this is where we get to the next little chunk of my homelessness. My daughter was like 3 months old, still a newborn, and
Wow.
Parenting was hitting really hard. I was spending like 12 hours a day trying to find a job. But it got to the point where I was even searching for fast food jobs again, anything that would pay the bills. And that's when I started to realize how horrible that the job market was. It was just a mess, and I wasn't sure how to navigate the job market because, you know, I was raised by the parents that were always like, oh, you go in, you talk to the manager, you give them a good strong handshake, look them in the eye, and that wasn't working anymore.
Yeah, no.
And so all of the pressures of never finding a job after graduating, it was getting to me mentally. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough. Maybe my certifications aren't actually as good as they promised. Maybe they don't actually mean anything. And that's when I found out how much I had been set up for failure by my father, who had told me for most of my childhood that we had to put some money aside of my birthday money for my college savings, which when I asked him about, I don't have a college savings, and I never did. So where that money went, I have no idea.
Wow. Okay.
And the only reason I asked him about it was because I thought that maybe I would need a college degree to actually put my foot into the door of a stable career. And I got super close to getting a job. I got a good interview. They loved me. I was going to be working with special needs adults that lived in a group care facility, and I was really excited to do it because I've always wanted to work with kids with special needs. I want to be a teacher, and, you know, I especially want to be a teacher for kids with special needs. So this was like my dream job. I lost the opportunity to work there, and the only reason why was because they needed me to be able to drive between Ogden and Salt Lake City, and I didn't have a driver's license because my dad had been putting off teaching me how to drive for forever.
Wow.
Yeah, and then this is when everything started to crumble because I started realizing just how poorly my father had set me up for life, and yet he would still sit there talking about how he was like the best dad in the world, and he could do no wrong. I mean, he practically saved me from my neglectful, abusive mother, which, yes, is true, but that doesn't make him automatically the best parent.
Didn't you say at the beginning that he was abusive to you?
His punishments weren't necessarily hitting. He did more of making us do boot camp military drills until we passed out. And I was allergic to everything. That includes grass. So he would make us do army crawls across the grass. I have asthma, I have allergies, so I'm out there running slower, panting heavier, getting lightheaded. And then if I needed my inhaler, they would make me run inside, go get it, and take it all within a timed limit. And if I didn't do it, they'd grab it, they'd throw it, they'd make me run to go get it. And it would just repeat. You know, this is the parent.
That is awful.
Yeah, this is my childhood. And according to him, it was better than living with my mother. She lost custody of all 6 kids. She did starve us a lot because she would forget to buy groceries or she'd be too busy smoking pot upstairs. And she had multiple documented cases from all of the neighbors of abuse, physical, dangerous stuff like dangling my few-month-old brother over the second-story balcony. So like,
wow.
It's been a lifetime of chaos, but according to him, you know, he saved me, so he couldn't do anything wrong, and all the drills was just good old-fashioned discipline. They made me tougher, and I should thank him for all the things he did to me. And everything was just crumbling, and while living with my dad, I started to really miss my girlfriend. I started to get more active on social media because I wanted to connect with people, and no one was really connecting in person anymore, especially after COVID and everything. So social media was where I found my friends, mostly through Discord. And it was through Discord that I met somebody who I ended up cheating on my then girlfriend with. I'm not going to shy away from it or anything like that, but, you know, it was something I did. And she found out about it. My dad got really upset when he found out that I had cheated on her. So he ended up kicking me out that night. All I did was look at him, shake my head, and I walked to my brother's house, and I lived with him for a few days. That was a shaky situation. He had enough for rent, but because he didn't pay it at the time he was supposed to, they refused to take it. And so he finally had enough money saved up to pay on time, but by the time that he did that, they had evicted him because they hadn't paid rent on time for long enough that they could evict them. Right. And it was obvious that I wouldn't be able to stay there for very long because he himself would have to move back in with my dad. And at this point, I'd sworn off my dad and my mom being the girlfriend that he has currently. I swore them off. I didn't want anything to do with them. I was sick of them. I blamed them for manipulating me into abandoning my girlfriend and my child. Because at this point, I had been gone for 4 months. So over half of her life, I was gone. I wasn't there. And during this whole time, all props to my girlfriend because she had been single mother parenting through all of this stuff while I was doing all of this. So that's, the B plot that she's going through. So all props to her and everything for that. She did end up moving back in with her dad. They kind of rekindled and apologized and whatever. And so while I was living with my brother, she was now back in her dad's basement. Because my brother was struggling and I knew I wasn't going to be there for a while, I was already trying to figure out what my next steps would be. But then one day my brother and I did get into an argument, and he was like, well, if you're saying you don't trust my dad, that means you don't trust me, and I don't want you in my house. So I said, okay. I asked my friend him and his mother it was the friend who had covered for me when I first ran away at 17. I asked him if he could spare some money just for a bus ticket to the local homeless shelter in Ogden. And he gave me enough for a bus ticket there. And then once I got there, I learned about the VOA in Salt Lake City. I figured there would be more opportunities for homeless people in Salt Lake City because of how many homeless people were already in Salt Lake City. Because when I was homeless at 17, there had to be more resources. So I went there, and for the entire, first day I was there, I went to the local Salt Lake City library, did a bunch of research. I couldn't find anything other than a local homeless shelter that is open doors, and it serves the first people that come through the doors, and then everyone after that, they can sleep outside. But I started walking to that homeless shelter. When I was walking there was a guy came up to me, started talking about, the waves and symphonies of life. He was definitely high off of his butt. And he followed me for 5 blocks. Talking to me about a bunch of stuff. And then he realized I was going to the same homeless spot that he was. And, we hung out for a bit. And then he seemed decently nice, but I was still a little hesitant. He was going to the same spot, though, and I don't want to assume that every homeless person that's high off of their butt is a criminal or a junkie, because, I've been homeless, and a lot of my friends when I was 17, they just smoked opioids and meth to just take off the edge of being homeless and being kicked to the curb by society. Sure. So I didn't want to assume the worst, but I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm glad we're going to the same spot. Where's the entrance? Where do we line up to get, served and everything? And he took me to an alleyway around the side of the building. And I've never been to this shelter before, so I was like, the entrance is probably just a bit more discreet so that the homeless people don't get bothered while they wait in line. He started talking to me a bit, started, asking about you look like a guy, but you don't really sound like a guy. And he started getting closer and everything. And then one of his friends or someone he knew, they came around the corner. They started talking to me too. And then they had this great idea. They're like, you seem so tense. Why don't you just loosen up? And then they pulled out a meth pipe and they were like, you should smoke some. And I was like, oh, it's okay. If it was weed, I'd say yes, but I really only smoke weed. I don't do anything harder. I'm okay. And then one of his friends was like, no, I don't think you understand. And then he pulled up his hoodie and showed me that he had a gun in the waistband of his sweatpants.
Whoa.
And he was,
okay.
Yeah, and he was like, you're gonna just have fun with us and chillax. Don't be a stick in the mud kind of thing.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there like, well, it's get shot or do drugs. So, let's just see where it goes. And so I took a few puffs off of the meth pipe and started getting high, obviously. And they could tell I was getting a little higher and a little disoriented, so they started coming closer. They started touching up on me a bit more, getting more touchy-feely and everything. And I swear to everything holy, karma must have been on my side, or if there is someone up above, they were looking out for me or whatever, because one of their other friends came around the corner and, hey, what are you guys doing? You guys want a cigarette? And they're like, oh, hell yeah, man. And they walked over to him, and I kind of stuck behind, you know, oh, I don't smoke. That's okay, but I'll just stay here. And then they got distracted talking with him, and I made a break for it.
Wow. That is
yeah.
beautiful to hear.
I know.
I was worried where that story was going, so.
I know, right? Me too.
Good.
I'm not gonna lie. But I was so high, I really was. And one of my friends that was homeless who did meth, she was in Salt Lake City, which was another reason I wanted to go, because I knew that she would try and have my back. She's really my best friend because we went through everything together. She did do meth when we were homeless together, and she's been sober ever since she started Job Corps, so proud of her for that. But because she had done meth and I'd never had, I called her and I'm like, I'm high as heck right now. I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to get sober. I'm scared. And she was like, well, what did the meth look like? And I was like, oh, it was a little red crystal. And she's like, red? She's like, I've never seen red meth before, so I don't think that was meth. So you need to get to a hospital because that could have been fentanyl for all we know. I found some guys. I speak Spanish a little bit. I'm, Duolingo proficient. Go me. I speak it enough to get by. And I found a guy, and I was like, hola, señor, necesita ayuda. Hello, sir, I need help. And, was trying to talk to him through broken Spanish. I gave him my sister's phone number. My sister's trilingual. She knows Portuguese, English, and Spanish, so she was able to talk to him. Sister, best friend, I use them interchangeably with her, but it's the same girl. Sorry, just to clarify. She's talking to him in Spanish. Where is he? Where are you guys? She finds me. She takes me to the hospital. They said it was spice, not meth or fentanyl.
Okay.
I didn't know if I believed them because, I've never had spice, but I felt like that was stronger than spice from what I've heard, but who am I to tell? I don't know. I just smoked the pipe. They released me at like 11.
Wow.
And the last train was going to come at like 11:40. As soon as I got to the stop, I saw a train pull up and I rushed onto it. I actually got on a train that was going southbound and not northbound, and that was the last train of the night. So I was, SOL. I talked to the cops and I was trying not to cry, but I cried. And the cops were like, oh, where do you need to go? And I'm like, oh, my apartment is next to the public library because I thought that there was a lot of homeless people sleeping on the front lawn of the library. I didn't want to tell them I was homeless because Utah cops especially are not the nicest with homeless people. And I tried to sound vague because, I still kind of sound like a girl. So I was trying to make it sound like I don't want to tell you guys exactly where it is because I'm scared of like the big, strong, scary policemen. They were going to call a taxi. All the taxis were put up for the night. So one of the cops was just like, all right, I'll give you a ride. Where you said you're going? And I was like, oh, just the Salt Lake Public Library. And they were like, okay, are you sure you don't want me to give you a ride like right to your apartment? I'm like, no, it's a really close walk. He dropped me off there, thankfully, and across from the library is a 7-Eleven. Out by the 7-Eleven, I see two women sitting out there talking, and they got bags that look like homeless bags.
Okay.
We know how to spot each other when we're homeless. So, cause I was talking to them and I was like, hey, so, I'm not judging. I just want to know if you guys are homeless because I'm looking for a place to sleep. And they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, honey. We'll take care of you. You just stick with us. You don't got to worry about a thing. And I was like, all right. Okay. So we're walking around and we're talking and I'm talking to one of these ladies. The other one, I guess she wandered off at some point and ditched us, but we were too late to get beds on the inside. So we were going to sleep outside. But yeah, as we were walking, it was so funny. Because she was talking to me and she's like, are you a boy or a girl? And I'm like, I'm a boy. And she's like, I told her, I'm like, I'm a boy, but I was born a girl. And she's like, oh, so like, what's in your pants? And I was like, well, I'm just a guy that was, born a girl. I'm just kind of me. And she's like, okay. And then she I guess she took a time to think and she paused and she's like, wait, you still got your parts though, don't you? She said the T word for that, and I don't want to say it, but she said that just really loud in the middle of the night, and I just kind of froze, and I was like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, oh, thank goodness, because you need that. And I was like, all right. Super sweet lady, just really crazy. We go back to that place, and I'm like, oh, I want to be there. And she's like, oh, don't worry. If anyone messes with you, I'll beat them loose. So we end up getting there, and this is where I learned how problematic it would be to sleep outside because they allowed us to sleep outside, the owners of the building, the people running the homeless shelter, but just because they allowed it doesn't mean that law enforcement liked it.
Right.
In my suitcase, I had a decent quilted blanket, and, I was sleeping out with it. I kept my suitcase behind my back. I slept with the blanket over me. I didn't have any wrappers from food, any messes, or anything like that. The group next to me, I couldn't say the same for. They had started, cooking stuff from one-time use baking sheets. They had grabbed some sticks and dead leaves, made a fire, and were cooking, ramen and other stuff on it, leaving wrappers everywhere, making a mess. And I was sleeping, 5 feet away from them. So when the cops pulled up, they made all of us scram. And I was sleeping. I didn't think that the cops would bother me because I was not being a disturbance. I wasn't being messy. I was just sleeping. And then that's when I got a steel-toe boot to my ribs. He was kicking me awake and saying, "You need to leave." That's when one of them just whispered to me. They're like, "Just get up, act like you're moving, grumble at them a bit, and then when they leave, just find somewhere close by to sleep that's just out of their line of sight." And that's when I realized which streets are kind of main streets and which streets are side streets. So I slept on a sidewalk facing the side street, didn't get bothered for the rest of the night. But this is still late December, and I'm sleeping out in the concrete. Number one survival tip that they tell you for being homeless outside is you put a layer between you and the concrete because that concrete, heat transfer, it goes from hot to cold, and that concrete is always stone cold, literally. It's concrete. So it'll draw the heat from your body super quickly. So around the hours of 4 to 5 and 6 a.m. when the sun finally did rise, I was shivering to the point I thought I was having a seizure. I was genuinely convinced that I was going to die because my body was so numb that I wasn't sure if I would even notice if I did pass away. And I just tried to keep my last few thoughts about my daughter and my girlfriend who was still trying to forgive me even though I had cheated on her twice. I just tried to keep my thoughts about that and just hope that they knew that I was trying my best now to get back to them.
Yeah.
And hopefully they would know that my last few moments was spent trying to come home. Obviously I didn't die, but the sun rose, so I got up, went to the library. That was a Monday, which was great news because that meant that the local social worker was actually in the office. One of the librarians, she had seen me around, and she's like, "You look way too young to be homeless, so I don't want to assume, but at the same time, you've come in with that same suitcase and backpack." And I was like, "Nope, I am 100% homeless, but I'm 19. So and she's like, "That is awful. I'm going to go get McKenna." So I talked to her for a bit, and she pointed me to the VOA, the Volunteers of America, the youth center specifically. So that's where I went, and I got in touch with my own social worker. I met a lot of great friends that have been a really big support, but it was just, I found community there. The staff there were super helpful, and I was really close to getting a job, and I was going to get housed soon because all I needed was my documents, and my social worker, he worked his butt off to get them for me really fast. He also got me into this program called Voc Rehab that would just give me extra training material for my career, and would also probably hook me up with temp jobs that I could do around the city. It was just, opportunities were opening up for me. Around this time, my girlfriend and I had decided to be poly because I felt like that was who I was. I felt like I was poly. I feel like every 20-year-old's poly at some point, but whatever. So yeah, we were opening up to polyamory. She had already found a new guy called Salem. When all this stuff kind of ended up happening, I was going to get housed, and my social worker, he had set up everything to allow me to live with my girlfriend and my kid, and he was pulling out housing vouchers for a 2-bedroom apartment so that my daughter had space and we had our own room. But she ended up getting close to the Salem person, like I said. They were talking to me about oh, well, I own my own house. I was a veteran in the Army, did infantry. They gave me a loan to buy a house. I purchased it. I own this house. You can come live with me. It's a 3-bedroom house. And I was like, oh, well, this is great because I can go to Colorado. I can see my daughter again. So I was like, I gotta come back. I dropped everything, the career opportunities, the housing. I dropped everything to go to Colorado to be with my kid. And my buddy Robin, like, he told me not to go.
So he advised you not to go, but you went.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
He's like, you have everything set up here, and it would just be so stupid to throw it all away. And I was like, but that's at the time I thought, that's my wife and daughter. And so I get there, and upon getting to Colorado, I immediately went to live with Salem. And I, had heard from Lou that the house needed some special love. It was a bit chaotic, but at the same time, I mean, a messy house is better than no house. But, I mean, that's what I said, but literally upon entering the house, I had to wade through a mountain of trash bags that had been left outside of the bedroom door. Like, the day after I arrived, my baby mama came, brought the kid, and we reconnected everything. I missed my kiddo. She saw me. She just smiled the biggest smile. She still remembered me even after I was gone for, at that point, 6 months. And I had only seen her when she was 3 months old. So she was 9 months and I'd been gone for 2/3 of her life. Great to see her again, and I was so grateful that she remembered me. But, it was definitely a weird time. At this point, I just wanted to be present for that kid because, that kid's biological father, obviously it wasn't me, but he never really tried to be in the picture.
What advice would you give to someone that is either finding themselves to be homeless or about to be homeless?
If you're finding yourself, if you're about to be homeless, all I would say is find support in the people that you can trust. I'm not saying lean on them to house you or take care of you, but just having another set of eyes out there for networking for jobs or, even just emotional support. I am now forced to go back to Utah, just because of how everything panned out here. My baby mama moved to Idaho, abandoned me here, and she's only coming to grab her dog. She doesn't care about me, or my living situation right now. Robin's been my crutch through that, and he literally just bought me groceries because I do not have, my baby mama canceled our food stamps without talking to me, and I have not had any food to sustain myself. So he sent me groceries. People like that are the kind of people you need to keep close because if they care about you enough to do anything for you, they will. If you're homeless right now, find homeless shelters that can help. Even if they can't give you a bed, they can give you a social worker to manage your case, to help you get housing vouchers. There's always an option. Don't give up. The job market and the economy, it's all so crazy right now. But if I can make it with putting myself through vocational school, still trying to find higher education, I'm gonna go back to Salt Lake City and get a house and, get my kid back. If I can do it, you guys can too.
Hi again. Thank you very much for listening. This has been the 20th episode of Understanding the Unhoused. I truly cannot believe that it has gone on as long as it has. I started this project many years ago with just the idea that I wanted to go out, I wanted to talk to people experiencing homelessness, to get their stories, to hear exactly what it's like on the street, no matter where they are. I've been able to interview people in so many different places, from so many different walks of life. It has been such a fulfilling thing to be able to do for people. To be able to get these stories out there so you can say, this is what it's like to be homeless right now. I'm going to keep interviewing as many people as I possibly can, whether it be in person or over the phone. I want to talk to as many people as possible to hear their experience being homeless. If you or someone you know has experienced homelessness, or you are interested in conducting an interview with someone who has experienced homelessness, please reach out to me through the website understandingtheunhoused.org. Click on the contact button, send us a message, and I will reach out. We will make contact and get things moving. I hope after listening to all of these stories, you can have a little more empathy, a little more patience, and a better understanding
the unhoused.